as we are going through general release of Global Fabric, and there is actually going to a planned press release that will be submitted tomorrow. But because we wanted to give you an early sight of what are we actually bringing to market tomorrow, where we are in terms of proving its value, and also just get a bit of a sense check of just like for all those who've come in from different parts of levels of briefing up until now, what a little bit more detail about Global Fabric. So let's kick off. So what are we going to cover today is I'm going to give you a little bit of a top down view of Global Fabric as in terms of what it is, what's it trying to achieve, what it is, and all the different constituent parts. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail in terms of one of our key features, our API first approach, and explain a little bit more about how that works in practice and how that delivers real value to our customers. We're going to give you a view of our delivery progress. Where are we? At that stage, we're going to give you a bit of a demo, just to give you an idea of a live demo in terms of showing the level of automation that we've included in our Global WAN. And then we're going to go through our commercial advantages and give you a bit of an idea of our messaging themes going forward. So, without further ado, let me give you a sort of an overall view of what is Global Fabric. And essentially what Global Fabric is looking to do is remove the friction from the connectivity of our multinational organizations. And therefore, if you kind of like look at it into different personas with our customers, first of all, we start really looking at in terms of when we speak to our customers, what are those top CEO priorities that's looking for in terms of any sort of their provider? They're looking for performance. They're looking for any of their connectivity providers to make sure that they've got that it's connected. They are connected. Their operations are connected. Their operations are productive, and very much in terms of what we're hearing a lot of is, and they are AI ready. So what's their priority in terms of that to embark on the future? They also want to ensure there is predictability. They don't like being sideswept by events in the marketplace. So how do they ensure that there's any changes that do happen? We all know that changes are constant for all of us. We need to ensure that there's that resilience in place that does not impact operations. And then last but far not least is security. How do you ensure that the cyber security is a threat, a top 5 threat for all at board level? How do we ensure that we're keeping organizations and customers safe? So if you think of that on the CEO's level, then you kind of fold it down into, well, what does that sort of get cascaded into a CIO challenge? And they're well, let's look at it. I mean, from a global multinational, they're saying, well, wait a minute, I've got to figure out how do I perform by connecting very much a distributed estate. We all know that the future is distributed. It's not all in public cloud. There's going to be very much things are in the public cloud. Things are well, it's in the multi-cloud, depending on what the strengths are. There's certain amount workloads are going to be on-prem, on the device, on the edge, and also in the private cloud. So really, wait a minute, there is a huge complexity that they need to ensure that is connected seamlessly. So that's point number one. Point number two is, well, okay, connecting is all well and good, but how do you ensure that it's secured connectivity? How do you ensure that you're looking to do that in the appropriate way, that there are huge amounts of attack services that are appropriately managed from a risk point of view? And then the last one again, well, I'm being asked to do all of this. I'm trying to ensure that I am of a performing estate, but I need to increase my levels of performance at the same time as optimizing my cost. How do I really have that perfect equilibrium of the balance between the two? And therefore, listening to that, BT has then used that to define what we believe is our solution for our customers, which is Global Fabric, which is ultimately a secure network as a service platform. So when I say that, what does that mean in terms of what exactly it is? So what we mean by this is that we as BT are obsessed with providing end-to-end connectivity to our customers. Not connectivity in a particular route, but we're very much looking at it in terms of the entire ecosystem. And therefore, what we're really looking to do is to ensure that a lot of the traditional networks have been built with an intraconnectivity consideration, which was very much about how do you ensure that you're collecting all colleagues to all different of their offices. And even though on the right-hand side, we all know that for us to be able to embark on and embrace our digital economy, that we need to be able to embrace and connect seamlessly to public cloud, SaaS applications, be able to deploy services from the cloud, such as security, or even the different private cloud instances. The infrastructure that's already been in place in terms of traditional networks has always been on the left-hand side. So this is something that we felt, right, Global Fabric needs to crack. And how we've done that is by a few different architectural principles that I'll go through on the left. First of all, we have built it completely from the ground up with a API first architecture. Why? Is because the sheer level of scale and complexity is too much for any person to be able to contend with. So what we're looking to do is be able to have huge amounts of rapid automation by every single component part of the platform being natively API'd. So rather than where we've got with network automation has been automating human keystrokes, what we're doing is the native API integration that allows us to have much more device to device automation that massively increases the level of automation that we can deploy. Second of all is how do we have this as a high capacity core? How do we, if we know that we're having huge amounts of data increases in terms of data generation, even if you look at the elephant flows that are really needed in terms of training LLMs, etc., what we really need to know is how do we increase that? So what Global Fabric has is 100 gig as standard in every single one of our locations. We then looked at it in terms of a multi-service core. Long gone are the days where it's purely private MPLS. There was a big swing towards internet, but internet is fantastic for certain use cases, not for all. So what Global Fabric is a multi-service core that on the same port, we're able to provision a IPVPN circuit from private at a layer 3 level, and Ethernet point to point, either E-line or E-LAN, at an L2 level, also at an L3 level, an internet circuit with embedded DDoS. When then what we're looking to doing is being able to have pay-as-you-go commercials. So rather than the static, restrictive, multi-year contracts, being able to provide static versus burstable and flexible billing, where you can be able to flex on a per megabyte basis, all the way from 1 megabyte all the way up to 100 megabytes, 100 gig. And therefore really having that flexibility to be able to pay for what you actually use rather than being fixed into restrictive contracts. But then we were going to go, well, what are we actually connecting to? And I mentioned this before, if you go from intra to inter, it's all about being located in the same place, it's all about location. And that's why we've decided that all of our 140 POPs are built in carrier neutral facilities. We've named just 2 as an example here, which is Equinix and Digital Realty, which is one of our major partners. I released a joint statement with Equinix last week in terms of how do we build on a lot of their infrastructure in some of their locations. And the reason here is that we're really, truly designing this brand new network with dense peering in mind. So our locations of the 140 sites has allowed us to ensure that we've got 74% coverage of AWS, Azure, and GCP on-ramps. It ensures that we are pre-integrated into 700 data centers, and it ensures that we have integration with local ISPs with 400 access providers. And the thing is, what we really designed this is the idea of that to underpin our view of end-to-end connectivity, it's about creating a digital ecosystem that we can really work towards. So with that digital ecosystem, it then goes, well, what does that mean from a monitoring capability? So previously, as standard, you would only ever look at monitoring between POPs. Whereas what Global Fabric does as standard is that we have embedded monitoring at a very granular level that allows you to do POP to POP, but also POP to site, even if it's at the end of an access line, and POP to cloud. So we're actually able to go from all the way down into a Kubernetes level in the cloud, all the way to a rack level in a colo facility or a private cloud facility, and all the way to a site, a customer site, and then provide a seamless view of performance all through that embedded monitoring capability. And the combination of that allows us to provide value-added services that actually provides application-based SLAs from a connectivity perspective. And lastly, what we're doing, because of how this is all stitched together with a single digital experience, which I'll go into in a second, what we're able to do is then start to build in integrated overlays. So how do we build in virtual network services? How do we build in SD-WAN, SSE, etc., to be able to have a seamless integrated service as well as ordering journey where it adds value to the customer? So if you think about that as more of the architecture, now I want to talk about APIs and why we believe this provides value to our customers. Why do we believe in APIs? It's purely to do with speed, responsiveness, and flexibility. And how we've done that is we have 55 different applications across our global fabric estate. And what we're able to do is, even when we're doing regression testing, we can test an entire global network within 8 hours. And that just gives you an idea of the extent of the level of automation that goes all the way through it. And therefore, what we do is we expose our digital experience layer, which I showed in the previous slide, either through a web app, either through native or northbound APIs or subscription services, or through our partnership in terms of how we provide a ServiceNow app on their own ServiceNow console. And how we've done this is, and if I kind of show you on the left-hand side, we've built all the logic of the product and the service and a microservices layer. And that microservices layer operates almost as a headless application layer. And what we do is we have documented and developed those services, and that level of intelligence drives the execution of all the different API calls across our digital BSS, our NAS, OSS, and our infrastructure. And it all goes through how it's been designed with is an end-to-end flow all the way through. And that allows us to deliver almost real-time provisioning, modification, and ceasing of circuits. So you're really moving something from weeks to seconds. And it's only through that having to do it in one fell swoop are we able to do it. So we're able to execute at speed, but it's also about then how do we expose it? So the execution through our stack, our common digital delivery framework, is then exposed depending on how the customer wants it, because no customer in the multinational corporations sphere is the same. So therefore, we are looking at very much at providing flexibility for engagement, whichever delivers greater levels of benefit to them, to our customers. So what's to say what? What are the things that ultimately a customer can produce as a result? And therefore, we've really looked at the business benefits in 5 different categories: application performance improvement, operational flexibility, cost optimization, security and sovereignty, and last but not least, sustainability. So I'll rattle through these quite quickly just to give you an idea what it is. So first of all, app performance. First of all, I touched on this beforehand. What we're able to do is our embedded monitoring services. What we're being able to do is provide application-based SLAs to ensure that you have the confidence for your business critical applications to be always online. We've also got ensuring on operational resilience. So part of our architectural design is we have a dual POP per metro. So, and we also do it with different suppliers. Why have we not built everything with Equinix, for example? Purely because what we want to have is different suppliers in each metro. So we are confident that even if in this situation of any failure, we can perform under failure, because we're able to fail over within that metro and not incur any round trip delay. Operational flexibility, we've built it in line that the overlay is improved by the underlay's performance, and there is a API integration that allows you to be able to do rule changes, provisionings, all in sync. We're able to provide real-time flexible network management, so you're able to increase circuit bandwidths, decrease it, be able to make logical changes between location where you're pre-integrated, or even switch between a internet circuit to a IPVPN circuit, all logically, all within almost real time. So really providing that once you migrate to my Global Fabric, you never have to migrate again, because everything is a logical migration going forward. We provide flexibility in terms of our commercial model. I'll go through this a little bit more detail on the next slide. We optimize cloud workloads by our private connectivity to the cloud. Some of our customers, we've been able to underbid 100 million worth of savings purely by being able to allow them to have a more cost-effective way for data transit to public cloud providers. We're able to provide increases of data sovereignty and compliance requirements. We have a segment-based rooted core, which allows us to be doing two things. Allows us to be able to do geofencing to ensure that you're able to stay within any corporate ring fences of way of data in transit, as well as we're able to guarantee latency routes. So what is the lowest cost route, or what is the lowest latency route? And lastly, we can actually even do green routes, where you can be able to specify how do you move which routes can only use renewable sources of energy. So again, we have a much more control of the routing capability at the core. And lastly, overlay security services. A lot of our security services are present or hosted in the same locations as our POP. So therefore, we are natively integrating it on a peer-to-peer basis to ensure that there is network performance as well as security performance. And the last thing I would say is sustainability. We're 79% more energy efficient as a result, which makes a tangible and a clear improvement for our customers in terms of their scope 3 emissions commitments. So I'm just gonna, if that's more to do with the business outcomes and what we're trying to do, just trying to now, and also a little bit more of the technical details at the beginning of what it is. Now I'm going to explain to also why is it better commercially. So first of all, we're trying to simplify the commercial model. It's very simple. What you do is you pay for what you use. You buy a port, you buy your circuits, and you add your service. That's it. And then very much in terms of it's different if you're your own international cost or a domestic cost, or even a regional cost. And therefore, what we're trying to do is, rather than a bundled price where it's very opaque, we're providing a modular ability that allows multinationals to be very selective of choosing which element of their networking services that is optimal for them. Two is bursting made simple. We look at this from a providing bill certainty from having static billing based on committed bandwidths, but what we do is making burstable as standard. So what we're able to use is we charge at the 95th percentile of anything that goes above any commitment, and we made that super simple, and that's calculated on a monthly basis. We're able to reduce TCO savings because we've got this multi-service port. We abstract the port from the circuit, which means that you have a larger access circuit and a larger CPE devices, but you're able to reduce the amount of duplication. So therefore, you're collapsing CPE requirements, collapsing access requirements, delivers a tangible TCO saving for our customers. We've looked at reducing ports even further in terms of its price by offering the ability to have shared ports as well as dedicated, making sure that costing really is passed on to the customers to able to optimize their TCO. We encourage their usage of public cloud by ensuring that we provide a free shared cloud port, so you can within minute or I think it's about 60 seconds connect to a hyperscaler, and therefore all you're charged for is the VPC that you could set up afterwards. So really making it super seamless and easy to be able to connect to hyperscalers. We're able to reduce the TCO and egress savings and the reason we were able to do that is by moving away from an internet-only service in a connection to hyperscalers by using private connectivity. And what we found is that customers, when they're hitting the thresholds of certain high bandwidth usage, are actually finding huge amounts of savings by switching to a private connectivity model. Multi-service core also gives you, it's future-proofing your network that allows you to shift from one to the next depending on how you want to do it. There's always different use cases for private versus public in terms of our connectivity, and therefore that may change as your risk profile changes in terms of your connectivity footprint. There is no cost associated with it. There's a huge cost avoidance that can be done by ensuring that there is an inherent flexibility. We provide telemetry as a service. So you're able to subscribe to our Kafka bus that has high fidelity telemetry that we poll our pop to pop at least, and it depends on our subscription services and above it on a 2 millisecond basis. So it's a huge source of structured telemetry that allows us a real basis to either feed into a full stack observability platform or run AI algorithms over the top of it. And lastly, what we're doing is we're really looking to have simplified observability across our managed services. So how do we ensure that this integrates into 1000eyes or into anything else that we provide from a NetBrain, etc., and making sure that we can see things seamlessly across the entire estate. So what I'm going to do now is, so very much slideware, but I'm going to pass on to my colleague, Adrian, and we're going to give you a bit of a demo. And we've got, it is a recording, but it's actually live. So all of the time lags in here is actual automatic provisioning. But let me walk you through that as we go. So I'm going to start the share, and then I'm going to pass on to Adrian, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen, please.
Okay, Matt, ready to go. I'm going to play this now.
So what are we doing here is that we're going to do a very simple test, which is going to be one about how we can show how we are dynamically changing the speed of a network. So here you can do it, we're just doing on a UK base, which is why it says it's which, but what we're doing is a speed test that says, look, it's around, we're setting around 40, I think it's 50 megabytes per second. And as you can see here, it goes 54 has come out as a result. So what we go into is the Global Fabric web app. And what we're doing is we're viewing the circuit, and this is the port that we set up. That port actually happens to be 1 Bram, an area that is the headquarters for BT. And as you can see on the right-hand side, he's changing 50, so removing 50 and putting in 100. So saving that, he then looks at it, he checks the price comes back. You can see what the current price is. You can see the updated price. Does he accept that? Yes. And now you can see that change request is being submitted. So, okay. So this is where the magic happens. And this is, even though this is a recording, I've only done it from your basis for what it is. What we're doing is this is the real time, how long it takes to be able to go through the system. So let me just walk you through. So here we are in the web app. The web app sends an API call to the microservices layer, an Apigee layer. That Apigee layer then goes down into what we have is Velocity. Velocity from part of Salesforce, that goes into Identtial with Netbox. From there, it goes all the way down into, that's our network orchestrator. That all goes down into our Cisco hardware on the PE. That PE makes the changes, does the update, and then the same journey goes all the way back up. So that is what's going to happen. It takes between 60 and 90 seconds. And that is that will be for exactly the same period as to provision a circuit, to modify it in terms of what we're showing now, and also to cease. So real having control at your fingertips. Not only does that, and then this is a huge importance, it automatically updates the inventory. And this is one thing that we have changed slightly on this one, is that from the making sure that there is the change, what we then also do is to fire off a API call to ServiceNow. So our Snow system is our CMDB, and any changes that we make in the UI app automatically updates the custom inventory in Snow. And this is hugely important for us because telco, as you well know, as industry analysts, have notoriously been poor in terms of the quality of their inventory. And this is something that we were determined to fix going forward. So the entire of Global Fabric is based on the fact that you have a automatic discoverable inventory that can be able to be updated and ensures that it's always concurrent. So the change has been made. We just got the notification. restarted the test, and as you can see, now we go. Now it goes up to 97, 96, and boom. So there you go. So whilst I was talking and explaining the flow of the APIs, that was 55 different applications, not exactly in terms of that, 55 applications, but the entire thing working seamlessly together. A very simple few-step processes that goes from, let's change your bandwidth from 50 to 100. And what we've been discussing with our customers on this was it really gives them flexibility. How do they change things from seasonal demands? How do you ensure that they're only paying for the connectivity they really want to? But really do just giving you a bit of a sense check of just the scale and the ability of the network. So if I switch back to my screen, so bear with me 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So that was a demo. So where are we with our launch? And so the Global Fabric, and we shared this probably a couple of years about, it was our intention to do it. We looked at the fact of we had to strategically decide what we wanted to do in the international sphere. And we wanted to fully embrace the international WAN market. That involved us shutting down 4 separate networks, which had been built and been in place for 30 years, and then built over this period a brand new network. And this has really been the fruits of our labor, where we considered as an iceberg. We've built a huge amount of infrastructure underground, under the waterline, and now this is the exciting point for us, where we really start deploying all of our services. So we completed our internet minimal viable product last year in July 2024, and that brought online 37 POPs. What we're doing now is where we are today, and where we will be making a press release tomorrow, is very much that we've got our first early adopter customer using it. So that customer is under embargo at the moment, so it's some names that I can't share, but that customer was actually deployed on the 3rd of February. So we've been using it, we've been running demos, we've met all the criteria, and they're absolutely delighted. So it's really good. We just wanted to ensure that we've got all of the customer traffic working, and that's and therefore we'll be going out with a press release tomorrow. So with part of that, we have 60 POPs that are installed and live. Then what we do next is that we've been looking at this as a hypercare period. So we've got another 3 sets of customers that we onboard in March, April. We have our foundational customers. We have various different use cases we're looking at to test all the different features, whether or not it's having large 100 gig port with multiple circuits on the same port. Is it, how do we show that we can got demonstratable improved performance versus other networks? Really trying to do that robust set of features that we can prove. And that's what we're doing with our hypercare customers over the course of March and April. And that, at the end of that period, we'll have 80 POPs live. And then what we do is our general release of our internet product, supported by 100 POPs, will be in May 2025. We'll be delighted that in calendar year of 2025, so over the summer period, we'll be then exposing our APIs, and therefore we really see this as a platform play. Some of our telco and SI partners want to natively integrate. Some of our even customers are digitally more mature enough that they want to be able to really integrate with us purely on a digital native basis. So we are exposing our API sandbox to ensure that they're able to do that through their own development teams. We will then start migrations to internet. We'll do that both from our own product and our third-party products, and which we'll do towards the end of this calendar year, which then brings up our POPs to 125. And then beforehand, that's because it's early part of that quarter, and by the end of the quarter, so at the end of 2025, we'll have full coverage of 40 countries in with 140 POPs. Also, it's a busy quarter for us in Q4. We'll be adding more internet features, and the particular one we'll be doing is segment-based routing features. So it's a really quality DIA, so it's a premium DIA services. Not only does it be able to have the service levels on there, it's got embedded DDoS, it's got embedded segment-based routing to be able to provide much more flexibility than you can get from a usual public internet service. So that will be very much at the end of 2025, which then brings us into our excitement for 2026. We'll go through our IPVPN launch in Q1 that we'll also do with CloudPort, and that will provide the richness of the multi-service core. So a lot of the core networking features will be available because of our internet being the number one. And the reason we've gone for number first is because obviously a lot of our customers are moving to internet first, or it's part of our SD-WAN suite in terms of our package. So we're demonstrating that, proving value with internet, and then building on other networking services on the same infrastructure. We then start migrating to IPVPN from Q2 onwards before we add in Ethernet, which will be both an E-line and ELAN capability, ELAN being in the metro level, to increase the level of integration, particularly around cross connects in metros. And then what we do is in Q1 2028 is when we will be looking to the full scope to be delivered. So what we really believe here is, and we've done this huge amount, is this is about working. We've developed Global Fabric in conjunction with our customers. So we have a demo environment. We've been running demos for 12 months now. I think at last count, we've done 274 demos. We've run 24 different co-creation workshops with our customers. And now we're really moving into sort of the POC or proof of value. Where are you able to spin it up? How do you be able to do certain routes or certain sort of smaller network coverage to understand what their optimal designs are? How can you use different transit rates, or using headless, so virtualized SD-WANs in the CNFs? How are you able to look at the optimal internet breakout points? Then also the API sandbox, how do you make sure that we've got the perfect order journeys between different systems, etc.? All of this is iterative design with our customers. And that's something that not only have we been doing in the last 12 months, is what we will be doing for the next 2 years as we build this out. So I'm going to just move on to my last slide before opening up for Q&A. And it's kind of our key takeaways. So there's 3. So really what we are is we've been incredibly focused on what is it that our customers are looking for, and what is it that they're trying to achieve with their connectivity services, and how do we believe that a network as a service that is built from the ground up with an API first approach delivers that value. So I think that's the key takeaway. The creation of a completely brand new network delivers use cases that's just not possible by building things iteratively. Number 2 is that because we've done that, we've been able to improve customer experience at the same time as reducing TCO. And that's my point right at the beginning when the CIO is, how do you improve performance and reduce cost? And that is ultimately where we believe that Global Fabric can achieve both for our customers. And then the third one is that we've done this in a way that we want to do easy to do business with. And the only way that is not just about this. I think it was 3. It's for our customers, a choice of digital experience for them to engage with. It's for our colleagues, and to use the right toolings to be able to be fastest to resolve something or investigate something or provide the right level of service to our customers they expect. And then the third one is our partners. And then again, I stress this, is we are in the business of end-to-end connectivity, not connecting just data centers together. We're looking at the full gambit. And the only way that we do that is to make sure that we make a seamless digital experience across all of our partners. And therefore, we see it as a partner ecosystem. So we are very much there to be easy to do business with. So I'm going to pause and open up for Q&A. I hope you find that of interest, and very happy to answer any questions that you may have, or expand on any areas that were not clear.
Matthew Gaston here, Gaston Abdul calling from San Diego. Great presentation, by the way. I like the concepts and everything. I do have maybe a question. Part of the application performance to a large extent relies on connectivity performance, but also low latency to a large extent. Are you including any latency guarantees? As I know it's probably a difficult question because depending where the application resides, whether it's centralized, edge, or whatever, is there any thinking process regarding the low latency aspects?
Yes, so what we have is an integrated planning tool. So what you're able to do through the app is, it's kind of like Google Maps. You say, I want to go from zip code A to postcode B, and switching in different countries. And then what we do is that we're able to then provide connectivity options. So do you want to go through this route? Do you want to go through this partner? This is how it works. But the important is that we run synthetic testing over the top of it that then says on a certain application, we can understand, well, what is the performance, latency, and jitter rate that you would expect to receive at for any of those given applications. That's done by synthetic testing. What we then, so that comes as standard, and that's very much from a network planning point of view. What we do as a part of our premium services is, to you're bang on. The thing about the applications is it's not just about the application. So what we're able to do is provide additional monitoring and look at how chatty that application is. And as a result of the chatty application, we can work out, we do all the mapping of where it's talking to, and then we can guarantee those routes based on our segment-based routing. And therefore, part of that SLA, that's something that we're not doing in an early release, but it's very much in terms of what we're doing as part of our rollout, will then guarantee latency of that. And that's, I think the segment-based routing for internet is hugely important. It's the benefits of a lot of what you've got from legacy MPLS, but as part of our internet product, to be able to provide those latency guarantees.
Great, thank you, excellent.
Matt, just while we're waiting for another question, we've got some questions that have come in on the Q&A itself. So Brian,
I missed that.
That's
right,
okay. Brian asks, can you give an idea of the general vertical industry the undisclosed customer is in? So I can take that one. It's a multinational technology company, and we've seen quite a lot of interest from that sector in what we're doing with Global Fabric, but by no means exclusively to that sector. And that kind of also leads into another question, Matt, which is from Robert, about what customer traction we've had. I know you gave some stats about some of the demos we've done and the co-creation we've done as well, but we've seen very strong interest from customers in Global Fabric, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, as a product manager, I feel very lucky that I have a supply problem, not a demand problem. So we have around $1 billion worth of pipeline. I think we've got 200 to 300 circuits ready to go on general release, just all those different elements, and then we phase up to it. So when it comes into we're very strong in the logistics and manufacturing areas as well as FS. I think it's really interesting that what we try to do is diversify. So we're not just looking at it in terms of a managed service, because certain industries are more prone to outsource their telco. But also we're trying to provide is as a do-it-yourself. So some people from SIs or telcos will want to do it themselves. There will be other ones which are more technically proficient, more of the financial services. Sometimes they also want to do it themselves, and we don't really mind. What we're saying is that we're providing an easy access that we can manage it for you if that's not your core business, or if you do want to use it and you want to use us as a tool, then that's okay as well. And I think it's very much we're trying to provide that flexibility and choice for our customers.
Thanks, Matt. We've got a question on AI from Leslie. So are we utilizing agentic AI today or future roadmap to accelerate our Global Fabric capabilities?
Not today. I think there is two elements. So AI has multiple sort of threads to it. So let me explain AI for Global Fabric and Global Fabric for AI. So when I say AI for Global Fabric, I think there is three things that we are doing in the lab. So the first one is because we've got, I mentioned this, got a Kafka bus, but the best thing that is that we've now got highly structured telemetry, which allows us to then start training our algorithms over a really structured data set. So we're looking at how we can intrude with the ML AI automations off the back of it. So I think that's point number one. Point number two is where we're focusing is more about AI ops, which is more of the what we call product interactions. So I really care about, well, what is the relationship between if I see a PE flapping and the performance of an SD-WAN device? So therefore, if you look at you've got, well, what's the difference between what we've got of the performance of a CPE, SD-WAN, SD-LAN, security device, firewall, and the underlay? And therefore, we can spot these different things in those telltale signatures. What we're then running is AI over the top of it to aid detect it quickly, and then also run playbooks over the top of it. So that's point number two. Point number three is we're utilizing Snow's AI ops capability, very much looking at incidents to ensure that we can do quicker change and problem statement management as a result of being able to utilize the telemetry off the back of all of the different incidents. So that's what we do from a AI4. AI2 is that we believe that if the problem that you have with AI adoption is one of data diversity, one of data scaling, and one of data quality. So I go back to our entire design principle of Global Fabric is designed to handle distributed workloads. So if you think about it from an AI context, if you're going to be training your LLM in the public cloud, you're going to need to have high bandwidth to be able to ingest a whole bunch of data from across your estate to be able to train your models. Then you're going to probably have to run your models, whether you're going to run it more at the telco edge, or you're going to run it on your data center, or you're going to do the edge. And therefore, what we're really seeing is we're trying to provide is a intelligent software-defined core that makes it seamless as the pre-integration fabric for all of those hybrid cloud estates. And therefore, then if you're going to have the different flows are going to increase in different areas for different time periods, that's not a consequence or a constraint that you're going to be able to have through Global Fabric. So that's kind of how we're seeing it's Global Fabric for AI and AI for Global Fabric. Hopefully, Leslie, that answered your question.
Thanks, Matt. I've got a question from James, which is referring to our roadmap. And talking about cloud connectivity, so cloud ports coming at the start of calendar year 2026. Cloud connectivity is a central part of Global Fabric, so is there a reason for that kind of timeline, and not perhaps doing it sooner? Is there a reason why we're doing it in the start of 26 for cloud port rather than doing it sooner?
Yes, it's because what we're believing is that we want stability. So our very much focus is getting as many customers and proof of values completed in 2026 as possible. And the reason is what customers quite rightly say is, okay, you've been talking about this before, but I need to use it. How does it work? How's the stability? Prove that it's better performance. Prove that I can be able to have the flexibility of it. So what we really want to be is have to prove and show that Global Fabric is the platform that you can trust. The second element of it is a lot of these things, if we're providing a huge amount of power at the fingertips of our customers, they don't quite know which use cases to do. What is the optimal breakout for internet now that you have this in your design? Do you really want to break it out of your POP, or do you want to break it out of your site? How does that work? What's the best thing in terms of security consideration? What's the best thing about performance consideration? So very much what we're looking to is very much focus all of our sales efforts and our design efforts and our architectural assets is proving value and building the confidence of our customers to be able to understand, well, how would you deploy this in a scaled effort across your global WAN? When you have that, then we're able to then start layering on cloud port. Because if you actually look at cloud ports, they represent about 10% of any of the wider WAN of a customer. So we want to have that as an easy add-on, as opposed to start and confuse things by having things a bit thin across the board. So that's the logic. But it does also means that we are getting to do a lot of co-creation with our customers for both CloudPort and IPVPN. There's also one thing I'd add is that we have we'll be starting with AWS. I think it's AWS, Azure, and GCP. If Adrian, if I got it, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks,
Good.
Matt. Okay.
What's next?
Question coming up, going back to the kind of theme about customers. I'm going to merge two questions from Cindy and Chris. So how did we identify our initial customers and what use cases are they trying to solve? And then are we just looking at existing customers, or are non-BT customers also interested in Global Fabric?
Yes, so our new logos, so we're going after, we've had a couple of new logos, and they've been very, part of their buying decision has been related to Global Fabric. We're very much using our existing base to prove Global Fabric and demonstrate value. But also what we're doing is that we're looking very much through indirect channels, that we're actually we're co-selling with some of our partners where they're the prime and we provide the connectivity service to it. So again, we're really looking to diversify not just from a direct basis, but direct, indirect, new, and conversion of our old. So that's across the board of what we're looking at, and we've got demand across all of it.
Thank you. Another question from Chris about any impact on the contract size, length, and the sales cycle, and how many people we've trained. I mean, certainly there's a lot of our kind of sales specialists are fully aware of Global Fabric and have been for some considerable time, and as our ops teams, and there'll be an ongoing program of training as we get towards that general availability. But anything else you want to add on that, Matt?
So it's funny, right? And we run an advisory group and with our top customers, which are on a 6-monthly basis. And I had this question. I said, look, do you really want pay as you go? Because sometimes you have got you say you want it on your in some of the RFPs, but then when I see if it's used, how does it work? And I think they want both worlds, and this is very much what we're trying to do. Is they want bill certainty, and that is often your 3-year term contract, which is state. So, but what we're doing is like, well, what is your baseline connectivity requirements? You're just always going to have, right? And therefore, you can put it into your financial planning. You've got guaranteed. Well, the important thing is about how do you then increase it? And what we're seeing is we're increasing it is we provide the flexibility as what I call is BAU flexibility. And therefore, as I said, we build that on a 95th percentile basis. Or then there's project flexibility. Say, for example, you're going to have a major data center migration, etc. Therefore, you can scale up to high bandwidths for a few months. So we would call that a project, and then you scale back down. So I think the combination is that we don't see the situation when it's totally pay as you go. There's always going to be longer static ones at a certain level, and then we provide the ability to flex above it against funded programs.
Thanks, Matt. Got a question from Rob.
Oh, sorry, and sorry, there was the last thing you asked about training. So all sales teams are trained. We run an enablement program. We've created a center of excellence of all of architects. We run a solution hub. So based on where the maturity is for the different customer, we make sure that they have the appropriate training and just-in-time training. But there is general training across the board. Sorry, I just forgot. I didn't answer that question before.
No, thanks, Matt. That's great. Question from Rob, core backbone question. You said the core backbone would be standard at 100 gig, but is that sufficient, especially given AI? I think just on, perhaps I'll go at this one, Matt, you jump in. What we said was the ports were up to and including 100 gig. So the backbone will be multiples of 100 gig or 400 gig as appropriate. And we design the network to have different tiers of POPs. So for example, I know London, Amsterdam would be top tier POPs with the biggest core trunks because of the volume of traffic we would expect there. Australia, for example, would have a slightly smaller core backbone. And the other thing that would be used to kind of right size that would be the amount of traffic that stays locally, especially with internet, where you would expect a local turnaround, accessing local instances of SaaS, SSE, whatever that might be. And then you would look at what traffic is going to go international and dimension your trunk accordingly. But part B of the question is, how difficult is it to scale to 400 gig and beyond? Absolutely not difficult at all. All of the POP hardware and NAS capabilities allow us to scale very, very quickly. Even if we have to buy additional trunk capacity, then for us that is an easy swap out to be able to scale when we need to. Matt, is there anything else you'd like to add to that one?
No, your last one was exactly where I was going to go with this. And I think the importance is that we have a single NAS OSS orchestrator that sits across the whole 140 POPs. So the answer could be not 140, insofar as it could be 141, or it could be 160, because we would build POPs based on demand that we can see as optimal for our customers. And the thing is that we can instantiate a new POP relatively quickly, because it's a question of rolling out the software on top of it. In the same case, we can expand some of our capacity of our pool backbone, if we so wish, based on how we've architected it. So we believe that this is going to be sufficient for our needs, but we have the ability to enhance and increase the level of capacity if required.
Thank you. So I think that's all the questions we've had online. Are there any other questions that anybody would like to come off mute and ask us? All right, sounds like we've covered off all of the key questions in that case then.
Good. So, actually, well, I hope
something just appeared then. Was it from Chris? Was it a technology company CEO who showed interest in the underlying connectivity? Suspect the board is more interested in business outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, there are different ranges of CEOs, and maybe we could have tweaked up the language. Yeah, your point. It was a technology CEO, but there are consistencies between it, is probably how it was written in the slide. But a good point. They are definitely. It's more the business outcomes of the performance. I just want my company to be connected, is the point. I want it to be predictable, that I know when things going to happen. I want it to be secure. That's more the CEOs. But Chris, bang on point. I totally agree.
Okay, right. That is the last of the questions then. So Matt, I think if we go back to the screen share, we've got one more slide to cover.
One more slide, and so hopefully you found that interesting. I am going to pass back to hopefully that's sharing.
Yeah.
And over to you, Shami.
Thanks. We have 2 more webinars coming up in March, so please let us know if you would like to join. We will have a cybersecurity and sustainability webinar, and we will have another webinar on digital workplace. So please check your inboxes. We're going to be sending you invitations very soon. And thank you all very much for joining this webinar today. It was a pleasure. If you have any extra questions or you would like to mention us in a paper, please let me know, and we will accelerate the next engagement with our team. Thank you all, and hope to see you at the next webinar.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Shami, and thank you again for everyone to join us today. All right, all the best.
Thank you. Bye.